Hey guys, Gizmodic here, and I finally have my hands on the Redmi Note 5 Pro. It took me a lot of efforts to get this phone, but here it is, and today we'll be comparing its camera with the OnePlus 5T. The 5T is more than twice the price of the Redmi Note 5 Pro, but stick around till the end because the results are quite interesting. First, let's talk numbers. The Redmi Note 5 Pro has a 12 megapixel f2.2 primary sensor along with a secondary 5 megapixel depth sensor. The OnePlus 5T on the other hand sports a 16 megapixel f1.7 primary lens and a secondary 20 megapixel lens that handles low light photography. The 5T also has a 16 megapixel front facing camera, whereas the Note 5 Pro has a 20 megapixel camera and it also has the portrait mode, so this is one interesting camera comparison. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee and enjoy the video. So we'll start off by talking about images in broad daylight, and right off the bat you will notice that the Redmi Note 5 Pro is very close to the OnePlus 5T. If you look at the images closely side by side, you will notice that the 5T is slightly better, specifically in terms of how it handles the dynamic range as well as the colors. The greens are noticeably better on the OnePlus 5T and the images have a better saturation than the Note 5 Pro. But that's not evident until you put both of these phones side by side. The OnePlus 5T also has considerably better bokeh effect in its macro shots because of its 1.7 aperture. Still, in quite a few of these pictures, the output is very similar from both of these phones, but the 5T overall has a slight edge. When it comes to the portrait mode, both of these phones are good, but the Note 5 Pro has a limitation in which you have to be at a certain distance to get that depth effect. The 5T on the other hand can go much closer to the object. The Note 5 Pro actually produces a better background blur than the 5T, but the 5T is more versatile and I feel that you can use it in a lot more situations for the portrait mode as compared to the Note 5 Pro. Now moving on to the indoor lighting conditions, the Note 5 Pro is almost as good as the OnePlus 5T. The 5T has marginally better colors, but that's about it. One interesting thing that I noticed is that in a lot of these shots, the Note 5 Pro actually has less noise as compared to the OnePlus 5T. I was quite surprised by this, so upon further investigation I found that the Note 5 shoots at a slower shutter speed in indoor lighting, which leads to a lesser ISO, and then that leads to less noise in some photos. But upon zooming into the photos, you can see that the 5T preserves more of the details than the Note 5 Pro. So unless you're not going to zoom into your photos, the Note 5 Pro is almost as good as the OnePlus 5T, which is quite surprising considering its price point. Finally, coming to the extremely dimly lit scenarios, here the OnePlus 5T straight away leads the comparison because it uses the secondary low light lens. The Redmi Note 5 Pro does a good job for its price, but the 5T is definitely the winner here. Now let's move on to the more interesting part of this comparison, selfies. Both of these phones have a pretty high resolution front facing camera and the image quality is more or less the same. The OnePlus 5T has a more natural looking selfie, but the Note 5 Pro has the portrait mode and Xiaomi has nailed it with that. The images look really good once the portrait mode is on the Note 5 Pro. It's not 100% perfect, you can still see some mistakes around the edges, but it's really good for its price. It definitely makes your selfies a notch better and anyone who will use it will definitely be mighty impressed with it. The Note 5 Pro also gets an LED flash, whereas the 5T uses the screen as a flash. Both of them are okay and I would honestly not prefer using the flash. One thing that I would like to mention is that you need a slightly more steady hand with the Note 5 Pro, otherwise your selfies might be a little blurry. But apart from that, a big thumbs up to Xiaomi for that portrait mode. The front facing camera is really something amazing in this price segment. Finally, let's talk about the video performance. The Note 5 Pro for some reason is limited to only Full HD for now, whereas the 5T can shoot up to 4K. Both of them have EIS, which is Electronic Image Stabilization, so they do perform well, and the Note 5 Pro actually has a wider angle as compared to the 5T. Honestly, both of them do a good job, but the 5T, because of its 4K resolution, gets some extra marks. I hope that Xiaomi enables 4K recording on the Note 5 Pro soon because the phone is capable of handling that. So overall, to conclude, I would say that the Redmi Note 5 is surprisingly good and it does come really close to the OnePlus 5T. Apart from the extreme low light photos, the Note 5 Pro is almost up there with the 5T, and let's not forget that the 5T is almost more than double the price of